All right, let's talk about the state of Knicks basketball after that huge overtime win against the Bulls. And they're heading into this weekend's games against the big boys of the East, the Cavs and the Celtics. So let's bring in my guy, SNY's NBA insider, Ian Begley, the hardest working man in sports. Thank you for taking time to hop on with this, Ian. What's going on, my man?
Come on, Brandon. How are you, man? It's always good to be with you.
Oh,
Appreciate you having me on.
no problem, man. I got to get you, before we even talking about them going up against the beasts of the East Friday and Sunday, let's kind of recap Thursday night's thriller. Kept me up past my bedtime. No OG, no Josh Hart, but I like to say, as a squad, this team played with all heart. First impressions are big in our business, so what was your first impression of the Knicks in their first game out of the All-Star break?
Yeah, to me, you saw two elements there that you hadn't seen from this Knick team that often pre-All-Star break. One of those was defensive stops, and they had a really big one, end of regulation, Mikal Bridges block on Vucevic under the rim there, which was a tremendous play. And then in overtime, they get the stop late. Precious Achiuwa switching out, staying out on Kobe White, and then Landry Shamet getting a contest on Vucevic, him getting a bad look. So the defense was really strong in those moments. And again, this team has not defended at a high level for most of the year. And then the depth, right? Because we talk about the depth, the lack of depth a lot, but you had Miles McBride, you had Precious Achiuwa slide into that starting lineup, and they were able to get the job done collectively. And so if those guys can continue to produce like that, maybe we're not talking about as much about depth with the Knicks as we had been in the first half.
Yeah, defensively, I just remember talking to our Steph Bondi. There'd be games where the Knicks are putting up a buck 22, buck 30 something, but they'd be winning those. The opposite team, the other team, would be putting up like 111, 120 something points as well. So the fact that they came out and had a game where they could put some defense on tape, that's got to have Knicks fans excited. And you mentioned Precious Achiuwa having a big night, but this guy Deuce McBride stepped up huge in his first start of the season. He actually made franchise history as the first player to record 20-plus points, 3-plus steals, 3-plus blocks, and 5-plus three-pointers in the game. Beggs, I feel like there's a stat for everything these days, but do you feel like Deuce kind of played himself into more playing time and a bigger role within this team?
Yeah, I don't want to be premature and say that yet, but I will say that, look, it seems to me that when he does get those bigger minutes, we saw it last year. We saw it in the postseason. He really takes advantage of those bigger minutes. Now, you look at before the All-Star break, he wasn't shooting it that great. A couple weeks before the break, I think he was at 40% from the field. So I think, you want to see him shoot it at a high clip for a longer period of time before you start to say, hey, he deserves more minutes. Hey, switch up the starting lineup, get Deuce in there. But certainly took advantage of his opportunity in a big way. And they don't win that game without him. Tom Thibodeau talked about McBride just changing the energy shift when he got in there, and he was really pleased with the way he competed all night. Obviously, hits the big three in overtime, and yeah, really came up big on the night that the Knicks needed it.
Flashes are good, but consistency is great in sports and especially in our business. So now it's time to look ahead because now it's time for the Knicks to play the big boys. They got the Cavs in Cleveland tonight, and then they head on out to Boston to play the Celtics on Sunday. So, Bex, I need you real on this one. What do you need to see from this Knicks team these next two games to put them in the serious contender out of the East category?
Yeah, look, I think you want to get at least a split if you're the Knicks and you want to be considered that serious contender in the East. I'm not suggesting that the season falls apart if they lose both these games this weekend, but the idea that you're 0-3 combined against Boston and Cleveland, you got to be competitive against these teams, and they haven't been competitive against Boston. So I think, a strong showing in Boston, win or lose, the margin is single digits, and then a tough game in Cleveland coming off a back-to-back, but again competing in that game and getting 1-2. I think that's what you need to see in order to put this Knick team up there with the Clevelands and the Bostons of the East.
All right, close this out for us, Ian. Final thoughts on this team. Give Knicks fans something to think about, not only for this weekend, but for with the 27, 26 games remaining after this weekend.
Yeah, I think the help is coming, right? With OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson. I don't know if Anunoby is going to play Friday. He did not play Thursday against Chicago, but seems like he's on the precipice of returning, as is Mitchell Robinson. Both of those guys have been cleared by the Knicks medical staff to take contact and participate in 5-on-5 scrimmages. So that's the last hurdle before you come back to the court. And so getting those two guys back will help, Brandon, what we were talking about earlier, the defense. You think it helps the defense tremendously. So reinforcements, I think, are on the way here for this Knicks team.
All right, I forget what song and who sings it, but it's like, hold on, help is on the way, it's coming. All right, Ian Begley, man, always a pleasure, man. Thank you for taking your time to hop on with us.
Hey, Brandon, anytime, man. Be well.